Should we keep the vibey music going in the background or what?
I kind of like it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's called Night Driving. Cool.
I like
Well, we are live. And Tom, I just wanted to thank you so much for coming on to my vision selling interviews. You inspired me a lot during Arise, which we'll talk about. But just thanks for being on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. It's great to be here with you and to be chatting. It all started with you coming on my pod, so I'm happy to be returning the favor here.
Yeah, man. These live interviews, so the importance of a vision is something that I really learned at Arise, which was for everybody else, this immersion that I went to that Tom was one of the co-hosts for. And one thing that always stuck with me that I'll never forget is the purpose of a vision is not so that you achieve it, but it's who it makes you today, right? So I wanted to create a vision selling interview series that is pretty much just encompassing the best sellers I know, and capturing those characteristics and help the audience here who's trying to kind of progress their career in sales, how they could embody some of these characteristics today. So that's kind of the background behind my vision selling interviews, these 20-minute live interviews. So I'm really excited about it. And Tom, you're one of the best prospectors that I've ever met. And if I would say there's a strength in my game, prospecting would be a big part of that, right? But you are one of the ones that I look up to as a thought leader in prospecting and someone that I'm learning little nuggets from now and then. So I was pumped to have you on, and someday, I don't know when that day will be, we will work together. I promise that.
Yeah.
Because I love your energy and I love the way you go about it. But I'm excited to share with the audience kind of what you're doing and your background. I'd love to have you kind of just talk a little bit about your career and why you chose sales. I know it started at Gong and that was a big part of your career, and you're under Chris Orlob, which a lot of the audience will know.
Yep.
But I'd love just to hear your Arise and how you chose sales.
Yeah, man. It was a weird path. Most people have kind of a weird path into sales. I was selling. I remember back as a kid, I created my own sports magazine with a few of my friends, and we were selling those magazines door to door when I was in like fourth grade. And so that was maybe the first step. The next real step was I was in college, and I saw a flyer on a parking lot floor that said, make money, work your own hours. That turned out to be for Cutco knives, if anyone's familiar with that in the audience. Of going door to door pretty much and selling $1,000 knife sets to random strangers in their homes. And it's really interesting because I'm actually an introvert. As a kid, I was really shy, would hide from people when they came over the house, like to do my own thing. And so when I started doing sales in college, my mom strongly discouraged me from doing it because she just didn't think that it would be a good career path for me. And it turned out to be amazing. And it's one of my passions. So I think for me, I really leaned into the introversion. And for me, that meant, being able to think, being able to problem solve, to listen, to have empathy, to be curious, some of those skills that I tend to be stronger at. And just also really competitive with myself. And so I did Cutco knives for a summer, had a couple internships in the summer of 2015. I started at a company called Tech Target, which is a marketing technology company in Boston. I was there for about 5.5 years, went from, intro SDR, got promoted, moved to San Francisco as an AE, started working with some of their global accounts after a few years with their biggest customers like Microsoft and IBM, ran a sales team there, and then left in 2020 to go into joined a couple startups, ended up at Gong, worked for the infamous Chris Orlob. He actually hired me. He was my mentor there for a few years. And now I run my own business that's really focused on training and coaching sales professionals. So within all that, it was running a podcast and a blog and all that, posts on LinkedIn all the time. But that's a little bit of the high level of my sales journey.
Yeah. So you joined Chris's team at Gong. Take me through, hey, this is how I started. And then you ended up becoming one of the top performers there. So what do you attribute that to? How did you really get that done?
Yeah, I remember So I was actually interviewing in 2020. I was interviewing with both Gong and Outreach. And at Outreach, I was actually interviewing with Alex Kremer, who's the other host of the Immersion.
Yeah.
And I think I would have got the job, but he wanted me to move to New York, and I was not trying to do that at that point. And so I joined Gong, and I remember in the interview, Chris looked me in the eye and said, "Hey, you give me 2 years, you're going to wake up to a completely different life." And that always stuck with me, and I have goosebumps even just like saying that back out loud, because I did. Like my aspiration was to create a business and go off and do my own thing, and literally 2 years after I started at Gong, I was able to do that. And Gong is people might get annoyed of the people that are posting from there on LinkedIn and whatnot, but it was like getting an MBA in sales, man. Like the first 6-7 years of my career was focused on the art of sales. It was a lot of relationship building. It was taking care, maybe myself. It was working on some of my inner game, working on that. But then at Gong, it was like that was the science of sales. It was like, do these steps. Here is a bulletproof sales process. Here's how you run a discovery call. Here's how you write the perfect cold email or cold call or whatever it is. And they had it was so data driven, and that's what I learned from them. And so for me, like I would try to be the top person that's listening to Gong calls, every week. I knew everything about the top performers. Like that's what I would listen to when I was brushing my teeth or when I was like, walking the dog or any free time. I just absorbed that. And just tried to continue to get better. And, I took a lot from Chris's trainings and practices. But for me, I think it was just really about dialing in the process, the science behind it. Okay, when I ask this question and then this question right after that, this is how people respond. So then I'm going to respond this way. And it was just like, it was really cool to see that, see it broken down like that. And I think that leaning into that process really helped me out.
Yeah, man. I'm definitely resonating with everything you're saying, especially the 2 years from now, you're not going to recognize yourself. You go and you start your own business, which is kind of like those prospecting boot camps. How'd you get the courage to kind of just jump off and do your own thing? Because I know that's a big jump.
Man, it took a while. So I come from a family. We have a family business that my grandfather bought like 50 years ago, and so it's always been in my mind. I wanted to do something entrepreneurial. When I started my podcast, actually in 2016, I started with my best friend, and we were interviewing all these different people. We had Hall of Fame athletes and gold medalists, and we had Jordan Belfort on, and we were like catching steam, and like we got to the top 200 charts on Apple. And I came up with a list of the top 10 cities that we could live on the cheap and go quit our jobs and be podcasters. And he's a sales rep also. And he did not buy into that, but I was like ready to do it, 6 years before it actually happened. And then, I was just kind of like hunting around, like, what's my idea? What would I sell? What would I create? And then it just kind of started happening because I built a brand and worked on that for so many years. People started to come inbound and ask me for sales training and for sales coaching and, how do you prospect better and all these types of things. So I was fielding that while I was at Gong, building slowly. And once I got to the point where I had some momentum and I at least knew that I was going to be able to like cover my expenses, I wasn't making more than I was making at Gong, like on the side, but at least once I knew that I had a little bit of a safety net, I worked with a coach and she helped me kind of work on just like the courage to go for it. And for me, it was just, I put a year's worth of expenses in a savings account. And I said, if this doesn't work, if I don't land a single customer, in a year from now, I can go be an AE at another company and maybe even get a better job because of all the battle scars that I'll have. But thankfully that hasn't been the case, but it has been like a load off my mind to just know that, all right, my worst case isn't that I'm going to go be homeless. My worst case is like, I lose this one chunk of money and I go be an AE or get a job somewhere else.
Yeah. And talk about creative prospecting. I remember at the end of last quarter, I saw this post that you had on LinkedIn and it was pretty vulnerable, but it was like, hey, I'm this short of my quota for the quarter. And this is what I'm going to do for those people that sign up today. And it's through today only. And I think you like way overshot your goal. But I thought that was one of the coolest end of quarter promos of all time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's funny, man. I had my worst month as an entrepreneur in June. it was not good. Just like revenue wise, it was very low. Like I could not live in Chicago on that if that's what was coming in every month. And then in July, I was kind of in a funk actually before the Arise retreat, and I felt like I got a huge bump. And following that, I had like my best in July. It turned out to be my best month of the year so far, and I closed a training with a Fortune 10 company that I did. I closed a few other trainings, and I was on the borderline for my goal, which was I wanted to hit 6 figures of revenue. I'm open to sharing that. That was the goal. I was by July, I wanted to do that, and I was like $400 short. And my boot camps are $300 each. I'm like, I got it. 2 people have to buy this thing today. And I offered a free hour of coaching for anyone that did it, which is usually like a couple $100 on its own. So it was a pretty good deal, I think. And like 9 people bought it, which is a pretty big day for me. Like maybe my biggest boot camp day ever, or one of them. And someone else, Kevin Dorsey, sent me money. He Venmo'd me a couple $100. It was like, hey, hope this helps you reach your goal. Go pay it forward. So then I took that and I sponsored someone that is now going to do the boot camp for free from Kevin Dorsey's money. So it was cool to see, like, put myself out there. People jump at it. Other people help support. And like, I just love that about a lot of people that are out there, like you, some of these people that we've mentioned, like Kevin and Alex and Clara, that people that are going for it, like they like to support other people that they see kind of getting after it. And it's a tough road, but it's a worthwhile one. So yeah, feel free to shoot your shot if you're listening to this and you're like feeling inspired to take a crack.
Yeah. Yeah. And for the audience, I met Tom through podcasting and some networking, but first time in person was at an Arise immersion. And Tom's one of the co-founders of Alluviance and co-hosted this Arise immersion. And Tom was one of the guests, I guess, I won't say teacher, but I guess instructor. And you did a prospecting session that just blew my mind. I'm just curious. I know you do prospecting boot camps for part of your business, but would you give like a little glimpse of like what those boot camps look like for the audience here? Because I know you got a wealth of knowledge to share on prospecting.
Yeah, man. And I appreciate the kind words. And let's even take a step back. Like, why prospecting? And for me, I've seen in my career that number one, prospecting is really challenging, right? It's like I compare it to exercising all the time because it's something that we know is good for us, but it also kind of sucks in the moment. Most people don't enjoy, doing a tough workout in the moment. Most people don't enjoy prospecting in the moment, but we know it benefits us, for future us. And I've also seen that the most successful salespeople that I know of, I've interviewed hundreds of them on my podcast. I've met, hundreds more doing other things. They continuously prospect, right? They're always hunting. If they're 0% to their number, or if they're 200% to their number, they're not relying on their BDR or marketing or any, a lucky break to hit their number, right? They are taking ownership. And I think prospecting is all about, taking ownership as a sales professional. And so I'm very passionate about it. And so I would kind of break it down into a few areas if you want to be a successful prospector. So number one is it's all about time, right? We all have 24 hours. We're not working all those hours. Most of us are working, 6, 8, 10, 12 hours per day. I don't know, somewhere in that bucket, right? If you're a sales rep, let's say you're working 8 hours, maybe 10 hours a day. There's a lot to do though, right? You've got to work deals. You're running discovery calls. You're updating the CRM. Of course, you got to make sure you're checking TikTok and seeing what's going on there. You got to walk your dog, all these things, right? And so it's easy for prospecting to get lost. So for me, like number one, you've got to make time for it, right? You've got to make time, especially in the part of your day where you have the most energy. For me, that's in the morning, so like I'm way better at prospecting at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. than I am at 3 in the afternoon. So like I'm blocking off the calendar. I'm doing it when my brain's in a hot zone. I'm turning off all my distractions. I'm not on Slack. I'm not, my phone's on do not disturb. I'm not, on email. I'm like locked in when it's time. And then I actually give myself a reward after. So similar to, I have a golden retriever. If I want him to not do something, I give him a treat, if I don't want him to pee in the house or something. It's the same with us, right? As people, if you want to do something hard, you can train your brain, your neural pathways to say, oh, that wasn't so bad. And so I might, scroll Instagram afterwards or have a coffee or take a walk after I did like 60 to 90 minutes of like intense prospecting because I want to train my brain to do it better. Once I'm actually doing it, the main focus that I have, if it's just like, the high level strategy is I focus on the problem. A lot of people out there are talking all about themselves. They're saying, Zach, hey, this is Tom from TA Sales. I run the best boot camp. I'm going to help you do this and do that. But they don't talk about you, Zach, as the CRO of SIFT and what might be a problem for your business. So I try to be more like a scientist in that I have a hypothesis of what a problem is, right? So I sell to sales leaders and I help their teams if they're struggling with pipeline. So what my focus is I'm going to target a sales leader and talk about, hey, most sales leaders I'm talking to right now are struggling to build pipeline, right? There's economic reasons behind that. Budgets are tight. CFOs are getting involved in deals. Email response rates are going through the basement, all these types of things. If that's something that you're struggling with, here's how I can help in a sentence. Are you? And then I might ask, hey, are you open to a chat about that? If Zach's team is killing it and he's having the best quarter of his life as a sales leader, he doesn't need me. And that's cool. I'm not for everyone right now. But if Zach is like waking up in the morning and he knows his CEO or the board is like, we need more pipeline or his job might be on the line, then yeah, he's going to probably want to have a conversation with me and I'm going to want to have a conversation with him. So I want to focus my time on people that actually have a problem. I'm not here to convince them they have the problem. I want to focus on people that have that problem and try to talk about how I can be the solution for that. So that's like my main focus is like talk less about myself and more about, the person and what priorities they have.
Yeah, I love it's funny that example that you gave where you schedule your prospecting and then reward yourself. I actually implemented for our team. So Tuesday,
Nice.
Wednesday, Thursday, we've got 8 to 9 blocked off. And then we've got a little 15-minute walk the dog reward.
Nice.
So that's funny that you mentioned that because it's something that you taught me. There was so many nuggets that you taught me during that training at Arise, which was awesome. But yeah, I really appreciate that insight. So let's talk real quick about a majority of this audience might be junior sellers that are trying to get that promotion into the field, or maybe SDR management, or maybe marketing, or they're trying to take that next step, right? And we know prospecting is a big part of that inside sales role. What's some advice that you'd give to someone as they're trying to progress their career to that next level?
Yeah. Well, I think, there's like the prep to be ready for that. And then there's like actually earning the role, like earning the promotion, right? People aren't just going to give you a promotion because you want one, right? So when I tell people that ask me this is usually the first step is like numbers are the table stakes here, right? If you're not at the top of the leaderboard in terms of your results, then you might not get that call up to AE, or you might not get that call up if you want to be a CSM or account manager, whatever you want to do. So first and foremost, like take care of your own business, make sure you're at the top of the charts. Like you don't have to make the most calls, but like have the most meetings booked and pipeline and all that stuff. Then outside of that, what I would be doing is number one, I would try to understand whatever I want to do, what are the key skills that I need to be successful at that role? So as an SDR, all day long, I'm emailing and I'm calling. I'm emailing and I'm calling. My conversations are 5 minutes or less usually. As an AE, most of my calls are 30 minutes or 60 minutes, right? There's a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of conversation. There's strategy involved. There's demoing. There's discovery. There's negotiation. What can I do in my seat right now to learn some of those skills? Well, I can listen to calls if we have, a call recorder. If we don't, I could ask some of the top reps if I could sit in on their calls. I could go, take a course, buy a book, go to a training, whatever it might be, and then tell my manager about it. Say, hey, I just, invested. I just read these 3 sales books about discovery. Here's something that I'm learning to show that you're learning and progressing. I think you want to network internally with people that actually make that decision, right? So whoever that AE manager might be, I'd like to get to know them, right? I might put some time proactively on their calendar for a Zoom coffee and start talking to them about my aspirations and ask them, what makes a successful AE or AM? What would you want to see from someone to come out of the gates hot? And I would also share that with my own manager and say, hey, my goal is by the end of the year, I want to be an AE. How can we get there together? Like how can we create a plan to get there and have that conversation? And maybe you're closer than you think, or maybe you're farther away than you think, depending on that. But what I want to do, the mindset that I want to have in that scenario is you probably won't get the promotion until there's an open seat. So someone either gets promoted or they leave the company, or you're just growing. But I want to be the obvious choice when the opportunity presents itself. So I'm trying to treat it like a sale. I'm surrounding the buying team. The pitch that I'm making about myself is not only my current results, but how am I preparing myself for the next role? Because it takes a lot of reps, maybe a year from BDR to AE to really get comfortable. So if you can prove that you're shortening that time, that would make you more attractive to a sales leader to want to promote you. But I don't know, Zach, you have more experience leading sales teams. Do you have anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, it's funny. You basically talked a lot about my journey when I was at Oracle, trying to move from an SDR to a rep. I feel like this has been a common theme. Is sure there's the KPIs that you have to hit, right? That's like just table stakes to keep your job as an SDR. But there's that relationship building, which is a big part of the role, not just to play politics and create relationships, but also to find mentors that can help develop you. And sure, if they've already mentored you a ton and they're kind of molding you in that direction, when there is a time to bring someone onto their team, you're going to be the first person that they think of. So that really resonated with me. And that's something that I'm talking to a lot of SDRs when I'm kind of mentoring them, not to get too anxious either. Trying to lead every single SDR I talk to around like 10 months. They're like, oh, I'm ready. I want to go close. It's like, all right, well, you can only have one first quarter. And wouldn't it be awesome if you start fast, right? So that's what I would say is network and find mentors and be patient because you got a long career and you want to make sure you're developing the right skill set. Prospecting, definitely one of them. Speaking of which, I know you got a prospecting boot camp coming up, and it's I think if I'm not mistaken, it's September 5th, because that's the due date of my kid, so I can't forget that one.
It's a great day for both of us.
Yeah. I have a suspicion we're gonna be delivering earlier than that, which is exciting. But yeah, tell us about your boot camp here, and it's filling up. I think I put a link here in the bio, but tell us about it.
Yeah. So thanks, man. So it's 30 days and it's all focused on learning the fundamentals that you need to be a better prospector. So the sessions there's 3 calls per week. They're all recorded. You get all the materials, but one is a classroom session by me where I'll cover things like time management, account research, using AI, cold email, cold call, LinkedIn, all that type of stuff. There'll be one office hours where you can come in, ask me anything you want. And then we'll have one guest speaker every week. So right now I've got some great folks lined up. I've got Alex Kremer, sales director at Catalyst, lined up. I've got Ashley Zaks, who's an enterprise AE over at Apollo. I've got Marty Kasalan is coming in. He's going to talk all about AI. He's like an AI wizard for sales. So, and a couple other folks. So it's 30 days intensive. We got a Slack channel. We're all in it to help each other get better. And so you can check out my LinkedIn if you're interested.
Yeah. And I feel like it's the plug Tommy Tahoe show here, but like we met at Arise, and I know Alluvians has another immersion in Austin, which is really exciting. For me, it was sure I did learn some incredible things from you and Alex and Clara on like the sales stuff, which I geek out about. But for me, that immersion, it was a 3-day immersion, and it was the inner game that really changed my world. You can imagine an entrepreneur with a baby on the way. There's a lot of anxiety, and you guys really helped me out. And I'm really appreciative for that. But if you want to talk a little bit about what that is and what's coming up.
Yeah, man. So these immersions, a 3-day, think of it as a sales retreat, and it's focused on 3 different pillars. One is working on the art and craft of sales. So we will be talking about prospecting and discovery and and things like that. We'll be doing a lot of the inner game work that you're talking about. So last time we had a Zen monk come in, we did breath work, we did cold plunges, we did journaling. We got deep. We worked
did.
on what our vision, why are we working so hard? Why are we doing what we're doing? And then the third is building community. So we have fun. One day we had a DJ and a pool party. We had big dinners. I was on the grill one night. I did some yoga. When it's cooler in Austin in November, might do some hiking or something like that. So if you're interested, that is also on my LinkedIn, and happy to chat with anyone. And just generally speaking, if you want to DM me, I'm always down to talk shop and try to help you out with wherever you are in your career. And LinkedIn's probably the best place to find me for that.
Yeah. What was cool is there were about 10 of us at Arise, and we wanted to commit to something, right? And it's part of that community. And there were 10 of us that committed to 365 days in a row of morning or finding meditation somewhere during the day. I do mine in the morning. I actually did one right before this interview. But I'm 42 days strong. So
nice.
I'm seeing a massive difference in setting my intentions for the day and all of that kind of stuff. Super cool. As you said, having like a monk teach us how to meditate. That was one of the most interesting experiences of my life. So just wanted to shout out you and Alex and Clara and just say thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. It was a pleasure to be rocking with you for those 3 days. And this is fun. And, I'm inspired on the other side of just watching what you're doing and building this business and always having a positive attitude and helping people. And like, you demoed, this isn't a SIFT pitch, but you demoed it for me, and like the technology is super cool too. And so equally, I'm inspired by what you got going on, not to mention all the stuff about, about to be a dad and, great husband and all these things too, man. So I'm inspired by you too.
Yeah. I'll keep you updated, man. We are in between days away and 2 weeks away. I'm guessing it's closer to days away, which is pretty exciting.
That's amazing.
To welcoming our first kid in the world. So I'll keep you updated on there. I'll probably do a cool post, even though no one probably cares, but I will definitely.
I think they care.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, Tom, I really appreciate you coming on here, man. I know this was just a glimpse of what you have to offer, but it's times like these that's really helpful for those sellers to kind of just get into that right mindset and see what good looks like, so they can kind of idolize you and follow in your footsteps. So I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you coming on. And next time you're in Austin, let me know, man. I'm always down to go grab something.
We'll hit Squatch, right?
Yes.
A cold plunge.
Yeah, absolutely. My Squatch boys, we love to get into the ice bath. No doubt. So we'll be there, man.
I love it, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Alrighty. We'll end the broadcast here. Thanks for everyone who joined. We will be having about 2 vision selling interviews a week. There could be a little pause here. Who knows? Because I might become a new dad, but the goal here is to do 2 of these a week. So we'd love to bring the best sellers to you, and you can embody some of their characteristics. So thanks for tuning in.